Australia's other queen, Dame Edna Everage, very sadly died. Barry Humphries, who created that amazing comic character. What were your thoughts about Barry Humphries? Just
that Barry Humphries was the quintessential Australian character. Barry Humphries brought Australian larrikinism really to life. And in the characters, including, of course, most famously Dame Edna, but Sandy Stone and of course, who can forget that great Australian politician, Les Patterson. Australians have a particular sense of humour. I think British humour is different from American humour. I'm a fan of Monty Python going back, and Blackadder and shows like that could only have come from the UK. Barry Humphries could only have come from Australia. What Barry Humphries would say is taking the piss out of ourselves. And he did it so well and for such a long period of time. So it was a big loss for the Australian arts community, and of course he was equally as big here in the United Kingdom. And it says something about our common history that we share, and that engagement and interaction. I don't know that Barry Humphries was very big in the United States or in Asia or in continental Europe, but in the United Kingdom he was big, and in Australia he was, of course, larger than life, and there was a great deal of mourning of him.
His comedy, rather like actually Monty Python, Blackadder, all those kind of shows, which I love too, almost certainly wouldn't survive the modern curse of cancel culture because of the inappropriateness, apparently. Barry Humphries was cancelled by the Melbourne International Comedy Show. They took his name off the top award for him being allegedly transphobic. What did you feel about that?
Well, I wasn't even aware of that, I must say, until recent times. And I think people legitimately can put forward their concerns about someone's comments that were made then. But at the same time, I think that we've got to be able to laugh at ourselves. I think that a lot of humour, you're quite right, that a lot of humour that used to be on, I mean, Fawlty Towers, I'm not sure how that would go.
Never make it.
I'm not sure how that would go at the moment.
We now have. This whole idea of cancel culture.
And I think there were only, I think there were 12 episodes of Fawlty Towers, and they were fantastic. They were good fun, and they weren't, in my view, today you look at it and you go, maybe you might do it differently. But a bit like rewriting some books, it is what it is at the time, and that's the context. And I think that the idea of cancel culture is, in my view, a sad development, because you often can get as well pylons in social media, and you see it happen so often, and things quite often too, taken out of context. I mean, I try not to look at too much social media, but I know that sometimes people will say something to me about an answer that in an interview like this, without people having seen the question or what was said before or afterwards, and make it look like something that it isn't. But I think that we need far more.
Should the Melbourne Comedy,
far more tolerance.
Should the Melbourne International Comedy Institution, I guess they would call themselves, but should they have cancelled someone like Barry Humphries? Or did it actually, was that the worst kind of cancel culture? Because now, since he died, they've now said we want to pay homage to him and honour him, which seems to me stinking hypocrisy.
Well, I'm not going to go into the past because I wasn't a part of, I wasn't even aware that occurred. But I'll say this, that it's good that a tribute is now being made to Barry Humphries, and there will be a state funeral for Barry Humphries as well. co-hosted by the New South Wales and the Victorian government and the Australian government. My government will be a part of that as well.
So you won't be
paying
cancelling
tribute. No, we'll be paying tribute to him at a state funeral. He's someone who has gave an enormous amount of pleasure to generations of Australians, and I know that a range of people who are friends of mine knew him very well. I didn't. I met him on one occasion briefly, but I didn't know him. But I know how warmly he was regarded by people in Australia and in the UK.